The Joshua Ward House stands as a grim reminder of a dark chapter in Salem's history. Built in the late 18th century, the property rests on land that was once owned by Sheriff George Corwin, whose name still echoes through the town with a cold, lingering dread. Corwin's role during the Salem Witch Trials was one of terror. He oversaw the arrest, torture, and execution of those accused of witchcraft. His nickname, the Strangler, came from the gruesome method he employed to extract confessions from the accused, often squeezing the life out of them during violent interrogations. But it's not just Corwin's shadow that haunts the Ward House. The building has become infamous for its own spectral residents, most notably the Lady in Black. This ghostly figure, draped in mourning attire, is said to appear near the entrance or on the staircase, her face obscured by the heavy veil she wears. Legend has it that she is the spirit of one of Corwin's victims, perhaps a woman who suffered at his hands, or a mother who lost her child to the witch trials. Eyewitnesses describe her presence as unsettling, a cold wind that seems to follow her even when the air is still. People report hearing the soft sound of a woman's sobs, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps, only to find no one there when they turn to look. For many who visit the house, the sensation of being watched is overwhelming. Visitors have claimed that they feel a sudden, inexplicable coldness, as if someone is standing right behind them, just out of sight. Some have even reported being touched, light, almost tender, but unmistakably there. One group of paranormal investigators claimed that a cold hand brushed against their shoulders, and when they turned to confront the spirit, they found no one. One particularly eerie account comes from a local historian who spent the night in the house, researching its troubled past. At first, the evening was uneventful, but as the clock neared midnight, the temperature in the room dropped dramatically. He described hearing soft, labored breathing and feeling as though invisible hands were pressing down on his chest. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the far wall, and the unmistakable outline of a woman in black appeared in the corner of his vision. When he turned to face her, she was gone, vanished into thin air. The house has been investigated numerous times by paranormal groups, each one leaving with more questions than answers. The most chilling phenomenon, however, is not the visual apparitions, but the sensation that someone wants to communicate. EVP, electronic voice phenomena. Recordings made during investigations often pick up faint whispers, sometimes calling out the name George, perhaps a reminder of the house's cruel past and the blood that soaked its grounds. Despite its ghostly inhabitants, the Joshua Ward House remains a part of Salem's living history. Tourists and thrill-seekers alike venture through its doors, hoping to experience the paranormal firsthand, though few leave without a lingering sense of unease. The spirits of the past, tied to the house by sorrow and injustice, still roam the halls, and the question remains: who else may have been caught in their restless web, still seeking justice from beyond the grave? One of the most consistent reports from those who step into the Joshua Ward House is the intense, overwhelming feeling that they are not alone. Visitors often describe it as a heavy, oppressive presence, something they can't quite place, yet it's impossible to ignore. It begins almost immediately upon entering, as if the very air shifts around them, no breeze, no sound, just a pervasive stillness that presses in on all sides. It's especially apparent in the darker, narrow hallways, where the dim light from old, tarnished sconces flickers like a heartbeat. Guests will often comment on how the temperature drops in these areas, but not in any usual way. There's no draft, no open window, just an inexplicable chill that clings to their skin. It's not the kind of cold you'd expect from an old, poorly heated house. This feels personal. It's as if someone is watching them, breathing down their neck, close enough to feel the weight of their gaze, but not quite close enough to catch a glimpse of their eyes. A couple of tourists, visiting on a particularly quiet weekday, wandered into the upstairs rooms, once the private quarters of Sheriff Corwin. As they entered the small, dimly lit bedroom, one of them felt a strange sensation, a prickling on the back of his neck, as if something was standing just behind him. He turned quickly, expecting to see one of the tour guides, or perhaps his friend. But the room was empty. His friend, who had been a few steps behind, seemed startled and asked, "Did you feel that?" It was like someone was right there watching us. After a few moments of silence, they moved on, but the feeling didn't lift. Every room they entered seemed to carry that same sense of being observed, like invisible eyes followed their every movement. At one point, they stood in front of an old portrait, eyes drawn to the ghostly faces staring back from the oil painting. But it wasn't the painting that unnerved them. It was the sensation that the eyes of the painted figures were moving with them, watching their every step as they crossed the room. They left soon after, both admitting they couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone had been silently observing them from the shadows. Even more unnerving are the reports of guests feeling the sensation of being watched without being physically alone. Paranormal investigators, who spend hours in the house alone with equipment designed to capture evidence of otherworldly activity, have said that the feeling of being scrutinized can be so intense that it almost distracts from their work. One investigator, known for his level-headed approach, recounted an experience where, while conducting an EVP session in the hallway, he could hear the faint scuff of shoes against the floor, slow, deliberate steps that followed him. When he turned around, he found nothing but the empty hall. Yet the footsteps continued, echoing softly but distinctly, as if something, was trailing him just out of view. In the basement, an area where the temperature dips sharply, many report feeling an oppressive weight, as if something is standing just beyond the shadows, waiting. It's not just a general sense of fear or anxiety, it's a visceral awareness of being observed. One tour guide, after working in the house for years, confessed that she often feels the sensation when leading groups through certain rooms, particularly those that used to be part of Corwin's private living spaces. The sensation is not random, she says, but comes and goes, with some people reporting it more intensely than others. Interestingly, this overwhelming sensation often accompanies the appearance of the lady in black. Witnesses who have seen her describe the air growing unnaturally still, then a shift in their surroundings. The temperature drops, and there's that familiar feeling, the sensation of being watched or monitored. As the apparition materializes in the room, it's as though she's not just passing through, she's observing too. There's a strange paradox to these experiences. While the visitors feel watched, they often can't explain why they know they're being observed. It's not just a vague unease. It's a physical, gut-deep certainty. The feeling of eyes boring into your back, the subtle pressure on the chest, a sense of being in someone's sights. But when they turn around, there's only the echo of their own breath. The question that lingers after these encounters, often unspoken but heavy in the air, is, who is watching them? Is it the restless spirits of Corwin's past, unable to let go of their violent deaths? Or is there something else, something older and darker still, that prowls the halls, waiting for the right moment to make itself known? The phantom handprints. One of the most disturbing and well-documented incidents occurred during the 1980s, when the building was used as an office space. Employees frequently complained about cold spots, doors slamming shut, and lights flickering with no apparent cause. But the most chilling evidence came one winter morning when a worker entered to find a perfect set of handprints pressed into the dust on a window pane. Small, delicate, and unmistakably human. The prints were distinct, as though someone had leaned their palms flat against the glass, yet the window was locked from the inside, and the floor beneath was undisturbed. Even more unsettling was that the prints seemed to appear overnight. The cleaning crew swore the windows had been spotless the previous evening. When they tried to wipe the marks away, a faint outline remained, as if the spirit who made them had pressed so hard they left a trace beyond the physical. Some say these were the hands of one of Sheriff Corwin's victims, perhaps a woman, struggling for breath as her life was stolen from her, still clawing for freedom centuries later. The disembodied voices visitors often report the soft murmur of voices coming from empty rooms. They're never clear enough to understand, just whispers that rise and fall, echoing faintly through the halls like the remnants of old conversations. During one investigation, a paranormal group recorded what they described as unmistakable voices of two people arguing, a man's deep, commanding tone and a woman's desperate pleas. When they replayed the recording later, the woman's voice could be heard saying, "Please, no more." The man's voice followed, low and sharp, with the words, "Confess." Locals believe these are echoes from the witch trials, perhaps a spectral replay of Corwin's interrogations, forever imprinted in the fabric of the house. The floating figure. Not all who linger in the Joshua Ward house are so subtle. One night, a security guard working late reported seeing a shadow moving near the stairwell, tall and vaguely human in shape. Thinking it was an intruder, he called out but received no response. The figure paused at the landing, then rose slowly off the ground, drifting upward before vanishing into the ceiling. The guard quit his job the following morning. Subsequent visitors have also seen this apparition. A shape moving just out of the corner of the eye, sometimes crossing from one room to another, other times standing motionless near the old fireplace where Corwin's body was once rumored to have been temporarily buried after his death. Some believe it's the sheriff himself, his spirit bound to the place of his sins. Others think it's something darker, a shadow born of all the fear and suffering that soaked into the foundation centuries ago. The mirror phenomenon. Mirrors inside the house are a frequent focus of paranormal activity. Guests have described seeing faces reflected that don't belong to anyone in the room. Pale, hollow-eyed visages that vanish when looked at directly. One tour guide recalls that during a candlelight walkthrough, she and a group of visitors noticed the reflection of a woman standing behind them in the mirror over the mantelpiece. She wore a black veil and appeared to be weeping. When they turned to look, the space was empty, but in the reflection, the woman remained, frozen, staring straight at them. That mirror has since been removed, though the guide says sometimes, when passing that same wall, she catches the faintest glimmer of movement, as if the reflection is still there, waiting. The burning smell. Though the house has never been consumed by fire, many who visit claim to smell smoke, a faint, acrid odor that seems to drift through certain rooms. The scent grows stronger in the evenings, especially near the old fireplace. It's accompanied by a prickling warmth on the skin and sometimes the echo of crackling wood. Historians believe this may be tied to the memory of Corwin himself. After his death, rumors spread that his body was stored in the basement for weeks because no graveyard would take him. The people of Salem feared that burying the strangler would curse the land. The smell of smoke, some say, is the sheriff's restless spirit, still guarding the ashes of his reputation, or perhaps burning in the hell he earned long ago. Even among Salem's many haunted locations, the Joshua Ward house is unique. It doesn't just contain its spirits, it seems to breathe them. The house is alive in a way that makes visitors uneasy, as though every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the light, is the building itself remembering what happened there. Those who've walked its halls agree on one thing. The haunting doesn't end when you leave. Many say that for nights afterward, they still feel it. That sensation of eyes on the back of their neck, of unseen footsteps following too close behind. Some say that once the Joshua Ward house notices you, it doesn't forget.